Picture this, India's highest court just banned a school textbook, not for promoting violence or hate speech chapter, but for what it said about judges themselves. The Chief Justice didn't mince words, calling it a calculated conspiracy to poison young minds against the judiciary. But what exactly did this textbook say, and why did it trigger such a strong reaction? Alright, before we get into the details, let me quickly walk you through what this video covers. First, we'll examine the specific textbook content that triggered the Supreme Court's anger, what exactly was written about judicial corruption. Then we'll understand why the court treated this as contempt rather than just an editorial mistake. We'll look at the government's damage control efforts and their unconditional apology. Next, we'll explore the broader constitutional questions this raises about educational content standards. And finally, the most thought-provoking aspect, how this case reflects the delicate balance between protecting institutional dignity and allowing legitimate criticism in a democracy. Now let's understand each of these properly. Starting from the beginning, this controversy erupted over a Class 8 NCERT social science textbook published in February 2024. The textbook is part of India's national curriculum, reaching millions of students across the country. NCERT textbooks aren't just books. They shape how an entire generation understands governance, democracy, and constitutional institutions. But here's where things get complicated. The Supreme Court found that this particular textbook made selective references about corruption in the judiciary without providing the full picture. What was missing? The textbook failed to mention transformative judicial measures for legal aid and access to justice. It ignored the constitutional role of judiciary in upholding democratic values. Most importantly, it completely overlooked the institutional contributions of the Supreme Court and High Courts to Indian democracy. The three-judge bench led by Chief Justice Surya Kant described this as erasing the illustrious history of Indian judiciary with one stroke of the pen. But the court didn't treat this as a simple editorial mistake. Instead, it found something much more serious, a deep-rooted conspiracy. The content was seen as a well-orchestrated and planned move rather than accidental oversight. The court believed the portrayal was deliberately designed to create bias in impressionable minds of children. Think about it. These are 8-year-olds forming their first understanding of how justice works in India. And here's what worried the court most. Such content could travel from teacher to pupil to parent, an entire society, potentially having lasting impact on judicial independence. The court's response was swift and decisive. It issued show-cause notices to the Secretary of School Education and NCERT Director Dinesh Prasad Saklani. But the real shock? This could lead to contempt of court charges punishable by up to 6 months imprisonment. And the numbers confirm this is unprecedented. In the last decade, only 3 cases have seen educational institutions face contempt proceedings by the Supreme Court. This makes it historically significant. Meanwhile, the government went into full damage control mode. Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, appearing for the centre, offered an unconditional and unqualified apology to the court. The government assured that those responsible would never be assigned the task again. They said they were holding their heads in shame. But Chief Justice Kant made it crystal clear the court would not let the issue fade with an apology. So what does all this mean? This case raises fundamental questions about who monitors what children learn about constitutional institutions. In a democracy, this responsibility is crucial. Then there is the question of judicial independence. How far can criticism of judiciary go, especially in educational material? The court clarified this shouldn't be seen as stifling legitimate criticism. But they were clear about protecting institutional dignity from what they saw as malicious portrayal. The key word here is malicious. Not all criticism, but targeted attacks designed to undermine credibility. Most importantly, there's the question of institutional accountability. What happens when autonomous bodies under government create controversial content? Who takes responsibility? Given this reality, what can be done? Several pathways emerge from this controversy. First, clearer guidelines for educational content about constitutional institutions need to be established. Second, there needs to be better review mechanisms before textbooks reach classrooms. A multi-stakeholder approach involving educators, legal experts, and institutional representatives could prevent such controversies. Third, balanced presentation becomes crucial. Educational material should present both achievements and challenges of institutions rather than selective criticism or uncritical praise. Ultimately, this is about more than just policy or textbooks. It's about how democracy teaches its young citizens to view the institutions that protect their rights and freedom. The challenge is striking the right balance, fostering critical thinking while maintaining respect for constitutional institutions. Neither blind faith nor destructive cynicism serves democracy well. Let me quickly recap 5 key points you need to remember for your exam preparation. First, the Supreme Court banned an NCERT textbook over selective portrayal of judicial corruption. Second, contempt proceedings were initiated as the court saw this as conspiracy, not mistake. Third, the government offered unconditional apology, but the court insisted on deeper investigation. Fourth, this raises questions about who monitors educational content on constitutional institutions. And fifth, the case highlights the delicate balance between legitimate criticism and institutional dignity in a democracy. This case will likely influence how educational content about constitutional institutions is crafted for years to come. It's a reminder that in democracy, every word matters, especially the ones we teach our children. If this analysis helped clarify the constitutional and political dimensions of this controversy, hit that like button and subscribe for more UPSC-focused content. Your preparation matters, and so does understanding how our democracy works in practice.